Hey, scholars. Miss Alicia here again. Okay, I'm moving on to chapter 4. Last chapter, Winnie met Lee and is trying to piece together why he's treated so poorly. And it's seeming like that it is racism because he is Chinese. So let's see what's going to happen next. 4. Keep your voice down, Winnie, said her mother. We're in a public place. All right, said Winnie. The dining room of the Swansons' rooming house didn't seem all that public to her. It only held 4 tables. As far as Winnie could tell, everyone who stayed at Swanson's worked for the railroad, and they were all too busy slurping their soup or talking among themselves to pay attention to her. Still, eating at Swanson's was very different from eating at home. For one thing, they didn't get to choose their own meals. For another thing, Papa always tucked his napkin carefully under his chin. At home, he mostly used his sleeve, if Mama wasn't looking. Tonight, they were having roast beef. Again. It was the 3rd time this week. We have to put some meat on your bones, Mrs. Swanson had told Winnie. Winnie was not putting much meat on her bones tonight. Her food was mostly untouched. She was thinking about Lee. Wait till Rose and Julia heard she had met a celestial. Eat up, Winnie, said her mother. Your dinner is getting cold. Winnie took a bite of her roll. I met a celestial boy today, she said. Well, actually, I met him before, but today I talked with him. His name is Lee Cheng. He works for the railroad. I didn't know the railroad hired boys, said her mother. What was he like? He seemed quiet. He talked a little funny. The way he put his words together. And he definitely looked funny, especially with that braid of hair on his head. Best place for it, said her father. Keeps it out of the way when he's working. Winnie hadn't thought about that. But why do they have it all? She asked. Why not cut it off? Can't, said her father, pouring gravy on his mashed potatoes. From what I hear, the Manchu, and I'm going to show you this picture before I turn the page, sitting there at Swanson's having a roast beef dinner. Okay. From what I hear, the Manchu emperor back there in China ordered them to keep their hair that way. But they're in America now, said Winnie. China is far, far away. Doesn't matter, said her father. A law is a law. Her mother sighed. He must be a very powerful emperor, she said. Winnie knew about emperors only from storybooks. It was hard to imagine them as real people. She couldn't really blame Lee for doing what an emperor wanted. She wouldn't want to get in trouble with an emperor either. What was this boy doing when you talked to him? Her mother asked. Getting water from a stream. He was going to refill a keg, I think. They must drink a lot of water on hot days. Eli snorted. It's not water they drink, it's tea. Lukewarm tea. He shuddered. It must agree with them, though. They're never sick. Do you really think the tea makes them healthier? Marjorie asked. Who knows, said Eli. Maybe it's all that cuttlefish they eat, or the bamboo sprouts, or the dried seaweed, or all those vegetables. Pass the butter, please. Winnie blinked. She had hated vegetables. Why would anyone eat so many of them on purpose? Why do you think they eat such things? She asked. The Chinese foods are shipped in from San Francisco, her father replied. Most of them arrive all dried up, like something dead or worse. After the Chinese cooks add water to the stuff, it perks up some. Not exactly like real food, though. He shook his head and stabbed his mashed potatoes. What's the matter, dear? Asked Marjorie. Eli shrugged. Oh, it's just the tunnel. My crew spent the whole day dry blasting. We were trying to enlarge the heading. And how far did we get? 1 foot. He slowly crushed a roll between his fingers. Solid rock can be so stubborn. I'm sure it is, Eli, said Marjorie. But don't take it out on the rolls. Winnie giggled into her napkin. 1 foot wasn't very much, though. Imagine 20 or 30 men digging only that far in a day. The Celestials work hard, don't they? Asked Winnie. Sure do, said her father. Why, they even beat a crew of Welsh miners brought from over special from Europe. I don't know where they get their energy. He sipped his coffee. Maybe it's their baths. Winnie looked confused. Baths? She disliked them almost as much as vegetables. Yes, baths. Her father took a bite of roast beef. The Celestials are very organized. They've divided themselves into small groups. At night, the group cook prepares a large boiler of hot water. Then the Celestials fill empty powder kegs with the water and take sponge baths. A bath every night? Winnie was amazed. It sounded like torture. Every night, her father repeated. Then they put on fresh clothes to eat supper. Her mother eyed Winnie's dusty frock. You know, Winnie, she said, you can learn a lot from the Chinese. Winnie wasn't so sure. Here, at the rooming house, there was one bathtub in a room at the end of the hall. Everyone shared it. She sighed. Her mother was giving her that funny smile, the one she didn't really understand. Somehow, Winnie had the feeling she would take more baths this summer than she ever had in her whole life. Okay, we're learning a little bit more about the Chinese workers, which is interesting. They mentioned that they eat cuttlefish, and I have to admit that I absolutely love cuttlefish. I ate it in Barcelona, and it was very good. If you like calamari, it is similar taste, but they're also really cool fish. Anyways, I will see you all here for chapter 5. Bye now.